start with any angry feelings, then sad feelings, and any fearful feelings, and feelings of regret.
Anyways,
Wow, welcome to the podcast. What a way to start it up there, Luke.
yeah, no,
So,
might as
what
well.
what was that?
I'll explain. So, when Halloween was coming around, I needed a prop for a costume that I had, and one of them was like a tape recorder or something kind of like that. And so, we actually had something kind of like this, like a mixtape carrying kind of thing, and I was just like messing around with it at one point, and then I didn't even realize there's actually something in it that could play. And so I was like, "So what the fuck is this?"
And
And
that's
so I
what it
played it.
was?
It was that. It was like, yeah, I was like, "This is creepy. I don't like this." And yeah, so
I think it's the monotone voice the guy has is the weirdest part
yeah,
of it all.
and also just the fact that he's like, "Remember, talk about your anger. And ways that make you happy." Now,
Sounds
on
like
to
the Hulk
part.
therapist right there.
Yeah, it's just like it sounds like some type of like deadpan Stanley Kubrick kind of like just like lifeless scene from like a horror film or something like that. But yeah, I just had that there.
Well, anyway,
Anyways,
hey guys, welcome to
what
the
the fuck
J4U
are you doing?
podcast. Hello Cool
Oh
Zip,
yeah, that's
hello
the thing.
Prime Gaming, and we're here today doing some stuff, talking
Yes,
about
we
some
are.
stuff.
Doing and talking and doing, both
Yeah.
at the same time.
So this week was interesting. There wasn't a whole lot of news to come out, but the news that did come out was pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
do you have anything you want to bring up before we get into that, though?
Not really, not that I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably have a few things I'll talk about at the end of the podcast, but I'll just save it for then. So let's kind of get right into the bulk of what we want to talk about here. And I guess the biggest thing
Or like
is...
the Hulk of this.
Yep, there you go. And that is
Yeah.
Thor Ragnarok. So, yeah, let's just jump into it. Luke, what did you think of the movie?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to keep it spoiler-proof right now, especially since the movie's so
Yeah.
new. But, Luke, what did you think
Yeah,
about
of
it?
course. I was pretty excited, mainly just because of the fact that the guy who is the director for the film, let me look up how you pronounce his name because he's fucking like from New Zealand and trying to say his name is like I don't know. So just give me a second. I'm gonna look up the proper way to pronounce his name. Thanks, Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Because you showed me some
Taika-
stuff that this guy did previous to the movie, and it was really kind of
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Yeah, his name is Taika Waititi. That's how you say his name.
Taika
And-
Waititi?
Yeah. He is from New Zealand.
Like,
so,
I want to Wataika her titis?
But yeah, it's Taika Waititi, and that's how you say it. I looked it up on Wikipedia, so it's automatically true. But,
Of course.
Yeah, but yeah, he has done some great like independent comedy films, like What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilder People, with Sam Neill in it, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and I was really excited mainly just for that. I was like, he could probably do something really fun and creative with Marvel stuff, since it seems like Marvel's been less like, oh, you gotta do all this stuff and you can't do this and that
Yeah.
sort of thing recently. And I was like going into this like, man, this is gonna be cool fun, and you know, it'll be much more creative than most of the other Marvel films. And then I watched it, it's like, and it was good, but it felt really bland, in all honesty. Like, in my personal opinion, like, it has great, incredibly fun comedy at many points throughout the whole film. Like, there's some incredibly great lines, but it also at the same time feels very half-hearted, I guess. I don't know, just something about it just doesn't have all that much punch to it.
Yeah, I get that.
One thing that I can definitely harp on is the cinematography and color grading of the film, because God, Like I was expecting going into this like, oh man, maybe it'll actually look a little bit more better than most Marvel films since, again, like a creative, cool, interesting director. But then they didn't do the thing they did with Guardians Volume 2, which was like have actually nice looking visuals.
Yeah.
And this time it was just like this grayish mixed with like multicolored thing that doesn't work, and the cinematography is basically just 1/3 or middle shots for everything.
Yeah. And the trailers gave it kind of a possibility to have interesting colors, but I agree with you. It was colorfully bland. It was a lot of colors, but almost very grayed down colors.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I noticed it near the end, but Thor's suit is literally just black and gray with the red cape.
Yeah, yeah, and also just like I remember one time my photography teacher said to not make your pictures look like the actors in it are actually completely white down. Whereas when I was watching this, it's like it kind of does look like that actually. They look like too pale, honestly. And then you think about that with like the rest of the color grading aspects of the film, and then it's like, oh no. And speaking of visuals, like this movie has a pretty substantial budget, I assume. So why did the effects suck ass for most of the part? Like some of the effects were fine, like Hulk was alright, but like then there's just like some fight sequences that are all completely CGI. Is like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it whatsoever. But yeah.
So what I'll say about the movie is, the first 15 minutes, I'm not going to say what happened in that, but the first 15 minutes is the Thor movie that I've wanted this whole time.
Yeah, same here.
Which I'm not going to say what happened in it, but if they made 2 hours of that, that is the movie that I was waiting the entire trilogy to see.
Yeah.
The second act felt a little bit weak, especially following the beginning. I thought was very well done, like with that the intro bit they had and kind of weaving Loki back into the story. Things like that I thought worked. The middle act felt very kind of dull to me, and the third act was more interesting than the second one, and it had a lot of really crazy things happen in it. But it felt almost lackluster in the same way that Doctor Strange's finale did. To where it was a lot of really cool things going on, but the way they beat the antagonist, I felt like I kind of want to give you credit because it's creative, but at the same time, that's not that thrilling.
Yeah, it wasn't all that interesting in that sort of way.
I mean, Doctor Strange was literally, Dormammu, I've come to bargain, and that was the final fight.
Oh yeah.
This it wasn't that bad, but it kind of left me with the same aftertaste.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, well that was a bit underwhelming. Like I was expecting it to be a bit more bigger in scale and not just I've come to bargain 5 times later. Alright, I did it.
I will give them credit for the fact that this movie felt kind of like the Winter Soldier of this phase, in the fact that it did have really big implications for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, the Winter Soldier completely reshaped the MCU. This movie, on a different scale, it did the same thing. So at least you'll be memorable for that. But I feel like there were a lot of good moments. Overall with the movie, it was probably the best Thor entry, but with that said, not one of the better Marvel entries as a whole.
Yeah, of course. I kind of am on the same boat, in all honesty. This is probably like...
Go ahead.
Of all the Marvel films I've seen this year, and Marvel's actually been doing pretty good for films this year. This was honestly probably the weakest one.
And I actually liked it better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But still, like, when you compare it to Thor: The Dark World and even the first Thor movie, I think this one was better than both of those. But
yeah, definitely.
I still don't know if it would be in the top 10 Marvel films list. So it's like it's in a weird middle area for me. It was a fun movie
Yeah.
for the majority, I'd say, but it wasn't
Yeah,
one that I'd be
it's
like,
fun.
yeah, that's a classic. You know?
Yeah, like something like Logan.
Granted, I did
It's
go
not-
in with very low expectations for the movie, so it did surpass those expectations. I was expecting it to be a more funny Thor: The Dark World, which it was better than that. I give them
Yeah.
it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. With that said, it probably could have been better.
It definitely.
There were elements that they could have handled better. Like, I like that the humor didn't feel as off as I thought it would be. With that said, though, there were still a lot of moments where I was like, was that joke really necessary? Where they almost kind of went too overzealous with their hey, it's a comedy.
Yeah, like that's what I was hearing from a lot of people was like how unique it was because it was a comedy, and it's like, okay, well, isn't Guardians basically that? Isn't most of the MCU films kind of like that, but like not all the way? So just like implications of comedy.
This was and the comedy was very hit or miss. It was either very funny and like I'm glad they did that, or really was that joke necessary? Like.
Yeah, and that sucks because like the guy who they got to make it can do great comedy, and I feel like maybe they didn't get to do as much with it because like Marvel's like no we gotta go with these jokes because this is what the Marvel like style is used to.
Yeah.
This
very much so felt like they were taking Thor in a Guardians of the Galaxy direction. They could tell that Thor, I feel, is the character that they're trying to make into a cookie cutter. Like, Thor 1 was them trying to go, okay, let's take this god character and fit him in to the other Phase 1 Avengers, who are all very human-based. Then Phase 2 was like, okay, I guess now we gotta up the ante somehow. And just kind of did a cookie cutter of the last movie. And this one is like, hey, people of Guardians, let's cookie cutter that. Like, Thor, I feel, doesn't have its own tone. Its tone is whatever the previous best thing was. It just kind of copies over. Which is a shame, because I feel like the Thor character deserves better. Especially for a movie like this, where you had Loki as a main character, Hulk as a main character, taking Thor in a totally new direction. Like,
there's like. So there's possibilities, just that not really taking full advantage of it.
Again, I think the perfect Thor movie would be take the first 15 minutes of Thor Ragnarok and turn that into a 2-hour movie. Like,
I'd watch that. That'd be great. That seems like it'd be like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, that's what I think they should have done with the Thor franchise, in my personal opinion. Thor 1 was what it needed to be to connect it to the MCU. Thor 2, let's be honest, was a bit of a disappointment. Thor 3 was...
That was probably one of the worst.
Fun.
MCU, I'd say.
I'd probably say it was the worst. At least in the top 3, but it was,
yeah, somewhere in there, maybe.
And then you got Thor Ragnarok, which it had a lot of good moments, but overall, it just felt kind of underwhelming to me. I liked it. It was fun and had good moments. It just wasn't anything spectacular.
I'd also say it was kind of inconsistent because it was going for like a comedy tone.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Like, in the first third, there was like I won't say like what it was. It was just like there was a tonal shift into just being dramatic for a good period of time. It was like, wasn't this like a stupid comedy for a little while? It was like, okay, we're just going on this again.
I think their biggest problems were with the tone. That was...
Yeah.
They couldn't totally commit to a tone. Which is the same problem that the DC EU suffers with right now, is their inconsistencies with their tone. So, and almost like the DCEU, there are good moments, but there are also not as great moments. And
it's a bit of an influx.
And I watched a review earlier today, and the guy who was doing the review pointed out something very interesting to me, and that was when you sacrifice a dramatic moment for a comedic moment, the comedic moment needs to equal out or surpass that dramatic moment you took away. And if it doesn't, you
Yeah.
pretty much let the audience down. And I think that perfectly kind of sums up some of the problems that this movie had. Is there were a lot of good moments that were just funny, but some of the moments that were funny took away from a moment that was dramatic, and it didn't quite add up to what the dramatic moment could have done for the film.
Yeah, it didn't add into the emotion of the scene. It was just sort of like a hey, let's.
It
go
took
into
away
this
from the
now.
emotion of the scene.
Yeah.
Like one joke at the end. There's the reviewer, he pointed out some that I wouldn't totally agree with, but there was one joke at the end that I just went, was that really necessary? Because it was, again, because we're keeping the spoiler free, I don't want to say what characters, but Luke, just so you know, literally like the last joke of the movie before the credits was one character. Thor asks them a question, and then it's a joke for the sake of there being a joke, because Thor already knew the answer he was going with. And I was like, couldn't you have just cut out that line and say what you wanted to do instead of go, hey, what do you want to do? Oh, you're an idiot. We're doing this now. Like, what? Really? You couldn't have just said, hey, we're doing this now from the start?
Yeah,
it didn't add anything to the scene.
No, it really didn't.
Mm-hmm. But you know what I'm talking about?
Example. Yeah, I know what you're talking about in that part.
But there are a lot of moments like that where I was like, was that necessary?
Not particularly.
Yeah, but I don't want it to sound like I'm bagging on this film. It had flaws, so I'm going to call it out for those flaws. But again, there were some good moments. I just can't say what the good moments are because we're keeping it spoiler free.
Yeah, like
so
there is good qualities in it, but I feel like it's not really enough for me to be like fully on board with it.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think part of the reason why I'm not digging into this film as much as I could be is because, again, I walked in going, well, this movie's gonna suck. So, the fact that it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be.
I was actually kind of excited for this one, but then I got kind of disappointed by it by the end of it.
Why you can't have high expectations for anything nowadays.
I guess so.
But well, while we're talking about DC movies, so we have some big news regarding a character who's going to be entering the DCEU. But before we get into that, I want to read something that I found that Henry Cavill said. Henry Cavill's the actor who played Thor, and he did an interview recently where he was basically talking about the DCEU, and it was really fascinating to hear his take on it. So let me see if I can pull it up here.
Also, is it Cavill or Cavill? I don't know.
Most people say Cavill. It's technically Cavill, I believe. Here it is.
Wikipedia, tell me.
Okay, so I'll let you figure out what the last name is, and then I'll read the quote.
Yeah, alright. Here we go. Here... Oh, wait, no, that's not a... Okay, I can't listen to that. It's I'll just type it into, like... No, wait, no, Google Translate won't work. That's not actually
Here, I'm just gonna read the quote. We can figure that out later. So...
Basically, yeah, let's just do it later.
He says... Even if Marvel didn't exist, we'd struggle, Cavill says. There was a style we're going for, an attempt to be different and look at things from a slightly different perspective, which hasn't necessarily worked. Yes, it has made money, but it has not been a critical success. It hasn't given everyone that sensation which superhero movies should give the viewer. He goes on to kind of talk about it even more in depth, but basically, to sum it up, the interview, he basically says that he signed on to do Superman, but he didn't necessarily agree with the tone of Batman v Superman, but he went along with it, trusting the director, saying like, hey, they have this vision, it will work out. Then when he saw the movie, he tried keeping it quiet while they were still doing all the marketing stuff to try and sell the movie. But he was disappointed in the theme, because he wanted people to have that, like he said in the quote I read, that feeling that superhero movies should give people. But he felt that Batman v Superman and the movies in the DCEU up until Wonder Woman didn't quite do that. Wonder Woman, he said he really enjoyed, and he talked to some of the execs and is basically persuaded them to make that the tone of DC films from now on.
Oh, that actually sounds like a great idea in all
Mhm.
honesty.
But it's kind of nice to hear that Cavill's not a brainless zombie, I guess, going on
Yeah,
with
just
whatever
like
the executives are saying. That
Just
he's
a front
like,
for the studio.
exactly, he went out and said, hey, I was in the movie, and I wasn't totally thrilled with it. I admit when there are flaws. So that's why he's starting to try and talk to... And I feel like Ben Affleck's the same way. Because do you remember when he was signed on to do the Batman movie?
Yeah, yeah.
And then DC started giving him all these things that he had to do, and he was like, you know what? I'm out.
Yeah, basically.
So I feel like Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, they know what the DC movies should be. And again, I hate calling it out, but I feel like Zack Snyder is part of the problem but Zack Snyder has his vision, which is very much so how Zack Snyder tells stories, and it's more about spectacle than the actual story. Which
Yeah, and
I
it's more
don't
like-
think that's what DC should be focused on right now. They need to catch up
be
with
focused on the
Marvel
story.
and worry about the story, tell a good story, and then secondly, make things look cool.
Yeah,
Not the
it's
other
like,
way
you know,
around. You don't plan fights and slow motion bits and then write a story around it.
Unless if you're George Miller, because he can do it well.
Yeah. But, so, that, I just wanted to read that, because I want to give Henry Cavill some props for that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Cool.
So, kind of continuing on with that note, though, DC announced something huge this week, and that is that Zachary Levi is going to be playing Shazam in the DCEU films. Zachary Levi, if you guys... he played Chuck in the show Chuck, that I believe was on NBC. He was also Flynn Rider from Tangled. And he was one of the guys in Thor, one of Thor's friends. The kind of French-sounding dude.
Oh, like the group he had in
Yeah.
this one.
But he's done a lot of things. Chuck's the biggest thing that he did, because that went on for several seasons. I think they got to 6 to 8 seasons or something. I don't know. But, yeah, so he is Shazam. And I want to just give DC some props for that, because if anyone can play a kid trapped inside the body of a god, it's probably going to be Zachary Levi. And what that means is we're going to get eventually a movie that's going to be Zachary Levi versus Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which that sounds freaking amazing. I'd pay DC all the money to see that movie like as soon as possible. With that said,
my money.
I am pissed because apparently DC doesn't want to make money. When they announced Zachary Levi to play Shazam, it looks like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will be in the movie, but Black Adam will not be the main villain, because they're going to have a separate Black Adam movie to show the origin story of Black Adam, have the Shazam movie be the origin story of Shazam, and then do a movie that's Black Adam versus Shazam. Which, I don't quite feel the reason for that. Because they could totally get a Black Adam Shazam movie out in 2 years. Like, that they can totally just knock out. And I think the reason why they're doing it that way is purely because they have The Rock, and they want to give The Rock his own movie.
Basically, yeah.
Which, couldn't you do a Black Adam movie after Shazam fights Black Adam? Like, I feel like...
No,
It's
you can't.
the fact that... And Black Adam, he is a huge villain in the DCEU. He's a Shazam villain, but in power, he's about as strong as Superman is. So, what are you going to do for his own movie if you don't have him going up against Shazam? So,
that's a good point.
the only thing I've heard about it is, A, it looks like the Black Adam movie will be a historical piece, because Black Adam was basically an Egyptian pharaoh type person who got his powers then. But at the same time, I've also heard they're trying to get Henry Cavill in it. So the only theory that I've heard that could work is, do you remember how in Wonder Woman, we could probably talk about it now since Wonder Woman's been out for a while, how it started off and ended off in modern day, but then the majority of the film was in the past.
Was in the World War I setting.
It would be kind of interesting if the movie started on Superman versus Black Adam, and then it cut back in time, and you saw, then at the end of the movie, you see the end of the Superman versus Black Adam fight, and then Shazam shows up, and that's how the Black Adam versus Shazam movie starts. But even that feels a little meh to me. Like...
Yeah, that does. It seems a bit like... I guess unnecessary.
Yeah, unnecessary is the perfect word for that. And I don't know, I'm just kind of curious at this point, because I feel the perfect thing to do right now is after Justice League, you should be trying to get that Shazam movie out soon, a Green Lantern Corps movie out soon. And in the Shazam movie, it should be Black Adam as the main villain, because you got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's not going to stick around forever without being put in a movie. Because we announced that he'd be playing Black Adam like 6 months ago, and they haven't put him in anything yet. So I'm like, that's the equivalent of calling dibs on The Rock before Marvel can get him, but then just putting him off to the side for years. Like,
we'll use you soon. Just give us a second. You need to catch up.
Cause like they still have to get out an Aquaman movie, a Flash movie. Justice League is gonna come out. They're working on the Batman movie. Like, the DCEU is so young that, like, when are they gonna get to a Black Adam movie?
Yeah. It's like, and when would anybody really want a Black Adam movie, though, is also one possibility. It would...
Black Adam, he's a villain, but it looks like the direction they're going with the character in the film universe is making him more the anti-hero. But I'm not sure how that's gonna play. Just a whole movie about an anti-hero god. Like, I'm kind of skeptical over that.
I don't know, man. It doesn't make sense other than they just kind of panicked and were like, get The Rock before someone else does, and it's like, yeah, we got it, but how are we going to make this work, though, if we don't even have, like, something for him planned yet?
It's like...
I don't know.
I feel like DC's trying desperately to catch up with Marvel, but they're just doing it in all the wrong order. Like...
Yeah.
I just, would it have been better, do you think, if before Batman v Superman, they did the Batman movie, and then did Batman v Superman? Like, there's so many things that order-wise they could have changed up, and I just always wonder, could that have made a difference in the DCEU?
Probably, yeah. I mean, like, it'd be like doing something like the Avengers before you set up all these characters.
Exactly. Like, I'm just kind of a little right now. I really want Justice League to be good.
Well, actually, now I think about it, the DC's equivalent of making individual films was those, like, 30-second video things during Batman v Superman.
That's
like,
true.
Hey,
yeah,
the Flash exists. Also Aquaman, also Cyborg, they exist. Is it gonna be a movie for them?
So
no.
I'm gonna, since we don't have a lot to cover, I'm gonna be nitpicky about one thing. Why is Cyborg in the Justice League?
That's like I've only known Cyborg from Teen Titans.
Exactly.
In all honesty.
He's a Justice League character, but that was after years of being a Titan and having to earn a spot on the Justice League. I feel like since you're just kind of speeding that up, like, what are you going to do for a Teen Titans movie if you ever get to it? Considering Cyborg was one of the founding members.
I don't know.
I
hope that Cyborg says booyah in Justice League, though.
Yes.
Otherwise, I would not see it.
But I feel like having him not earn that spot on the Justice League is just like, why? Because there was a bunch of characters who they could have had instead, like Martian Manhunter, for example, Or
Oh
heck,
yeah, Mushroom Manhunter's great. I love him.
speed along
actually.
Green Lanterns. If you want to have a cyborg, have Red. No, not Red Tornado. That would be lame. But like, you get my point. There's so many other Justice League members that like you could have had, and I feel like Cyborg's cool and all, but he's the Justice League member I'm least excited about, considering he's 90% CGI, and he's
basic. And it looks like bad CGI.
It's not great looking CGI. He's the only human part of him is half of a face. If they went with traditional Cyborg, he had one human arm, one robot arm, half a face, half a chest, like it was 50-50, that would be cool. I'd like that so much more of the design thing, but that's just me being nitpicky now. I'm not sold yet about Cyborg being a founding Justice League member.
Oh. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought your microphone was like going in and out there for a second.
But okay. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Not to interrupt or anything, but I also thought of actually something else that we could talk about movie-wise that I found out recently that was at least interesting.
What's that?
Okay, so Last Jedi is going to be coming out in about like a month or so, a little bit over a month now, and everybody knows it's going to be like the big gangbuster moneymaker, like boom boom money everywhere. Gonna buy 1 million yachts and strip clubs or whatever amounts of money. Something weird though happened. So there's a lot of theaters that are actually refusing to show The Last Jedi.
What?
And,
really?
Yeah, and it's not for like controversy, but like Disney's pulling some weird shit with like the policy for their film. So okay, so like one of the things is so I guess like the usual amount like for when a movie is being shown in theaters is 55% goes to the studio, and then the other amount goes to the theater itself.
Okay.
However, Disney was saying, hey, with The Last Jedi, it's going to be 65% to us and the rest to you. And they said, and that's not the only thing, but also the fact that they said, and you are going to be showing this on the largest screen that you have in your theater for 4 weeks. Not changing it to anything else for 4 weeks straight. You got to show this.
Interesting.
And if you don't, we are adding it to 70% goes to us.
Wow.
And I mean, this wouldn't affect like a whole lot of big theaters, but like think about like the smaller like theaters that live in like buttfuck nowhere, Louisiana or something like that,
and
where they only have like 2 screens and like nobody that even goes to the movies.
Yeah, and the thing with that is, I don't get why Disney feels they need to do that. It's going to make so much money anyways. Do you really need the extra percentage?
Got to have money.
Because again, it was going to break records regardless of this.
Of course, yeah, but then you gotta pull some weird policy shit now. Maybe you won't make as much money as you thought you would now because of that. Because theaters like, no, this is stupid.
It's probably going to bounce out.
With
the theaters pulling, all I think it's going to do is they would have made the same amount of money as they would have if it was in all the theaters at the lower rate. As opposed to a higher rate at some theaters.
Yeah, and like this was only recently, so maybe Disney will like back off of the dumb shit and be like, okay, maybe we won't do that. But just like think about like maybe there's a theater, I don't know, somewhere where not a whole lot of people even go to the movies in general. They don't want to like have the same movie be playing for 4 weeks straight. Like, nobody's going to be willing to go there, and then like nobody will come and they'll be like, great, now made no fucking money. So like just having this weird policy of like it has to be 4 weeks straight on your biggest, most impressive screen is like, it seems like so like overcompensating almost.
Well, that aspect of it almost shows that you don't have that much faith in your film, that you need the contract to have it stay in the theaters for 4 weeks and not a demand for it. But I feel like Star Wars, out of any property, should get the demand for it. You shouldn't have to make theaters keep it up for 4 weeks. They should be begging to have it for 4 weeks. So the fact that you're
Yeah.
making that a requirement seems a little sketchy.
Yeah, it's like, and to be honest, it seems like the film itself should be of high quality considering this is like an important product.
Yeah.
So like, why make it kind of come off that way? Where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you got to do it like this, otherwise we'll reprimand you for it in some way by just taking away the amount of money you possibly could have had.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, chill the fuck out. Like, everyone's gonna go see it, but you don't need to like have it stay for 4 weeks at a time.
Yeah, and like, again, I
Yeah.
feel the movie should on its own be enough to make that kind of money that they're hoping it would. If it's good enough, it will make the money. You don't need to raise your percentages to have it make that kind of money. It should do it naturally.
It should do it on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, I find that weird. It's kind of funny though, actually, now that I remember, Disney kind of pulled some similar shit with Force Awakens, actually, and it wasn't necessarily to this degree, but it was something interesting. So, remember when The Hateful Eight was coming out, like around the same time as Force Awakens?
Yeah.
So Tarantino was gonna show it at this roadshow theater for his 70mm version of the film, and they're gonna show it at that that theater, and but Disney was also going to that theater to show Star Wars, and it was like, you're gonna make so much money with this, and they're like, we're sorry, we can't show it on this screen. We got The Hateful Eight showing up, and you know what Disney said? If you don't show it on that screen, you're not getting Star Wars. Like,
oh wow.
The day that they're showing The Hateful Eight, if you don't show Star Wars, we're not allowing you to get it.
Jeez.
So either you're showing The Hateful Eight or you're showing Star Wars. And it was like, dude, this is feels almost like some petty bullshit. It's like, there was even a video where like Tarantino was like, it seems like Disney was just trying to fuck me over in some way. It was like, why? You have the biggest film of the whole decade trying to compete against my film that obviously won't make as much money, so why are you trying to fuck me out of a screening in like a theater that I love?
Yeah, that's kind of
just like,
it's very sketchy right there. Like, I get it, that's the business world. It's very cutthroat. But I feel like when you have a property like Star Wars, it feels almost a little bit, belligerent, like to go
overkill.
Yeah, just very overkill at that point. Like, you don't need to go that far overboard. You're gonna make so much money regardless.
Yeah, it's like, and it's only one screening of a film. It's not gonna, like, if you don't show Star Wars for one day, we're not gonna make any money.
Yeah, that's a little weird to me, but
yeah,
alrighty.
I don't know.
Well, I guess next on the agenda,
Disney's really the first order,
and that's going to be our subtitle.
Yeah, and we'll probably get demonetized immediately.
Okay. Anyway, so the final thing we really have to talk about here is Call of Duty World War II came out this past Thursday.
Ooh, boy.
So
Call it dirty.
I guess I'm going to announce it now. I will be picking up this game, and we will be playing it on the channel. It's kind of cool, because this is the first Call of Duty game I've bought since Ghost, which was however many years ago now. I think I was in...
I think 2013, actually.
Yeah, so about 4 years. This is the last Call of Duty game I've bought in 4 years. So...
Time flies.
Though... Every year, there's a group of YouTubers who put on something called The Race, and they all play on one account, and the goal is to race to be the first account to prestige in the Call of Duty game of that year, and they do it every year, and it's for charity. So I tuned in for part of it this year, and it's sponsored by Call of Duty, so they had one of the devs in for zombies, and he was talking about zombies in this game, which, to be honest, I didn't even know that this game had zombies. I should have assumed at this point. But
yeah, basically, it's just a staple of Call of Duty now.
Yeah. From what he said, though, they actually went really cool with it. Since it does take place in World War II, you're getting Nazi zombies when there are real Nazis alive, basically.
Oh, boy.
And the whole premise is because, the Nazis were really leading in science. That they were, and they could tell they were starting to lose the war. the zombie initiative was kind of their last ditch effort to bring back dead soldiers. So, and it's basically what the devs wanted to do was make it very twisted, because these are some of the creepiest looking zombies I've seen from a Call of Duty zombie game. And they have a whole bunch of different types of zombies. Like, one of the bosses, I believe it was, is basically, think of, well, yeah, one of the bosses, imagine, just kind of has metal encased all over him. They went, like, almost, not quite Left 4 Dead style, but, like, the zombies are very dynamic. Like, yeah, because there's one zombie that the dev was talking about that's basically 2 corpses that were stitched together to be twice as big. And, like, there are zombies that have no arms that are faster, and a bunch of things like that are just really crazy. I think I might be misquoting this. I believe there was a suicide zombie that was literally a zombie with another zombie on its back that just had grenades strapped to it. Just like, it's really crazy things like that that sound pretty interesting to me.
Yeah. By the way, there's actually a movie that's basically this concept of Nazis trying to bring back dead soldiers to life to fight the war. And this is a real movie. It was called Dead Snow.
Oh.
It was a Norwegian film, and basically it was just what you described. It was just Nazi zombies and a group of people fighting them.
But, like, I'll be curious to get my hands on the game and see what I think about it. Because overall, I haven't been a huge Call of Duty fan since Modern Warfare 3. Like, that was the game that was like, well, yeah, they nailed it. Call of Duty's, you know, a staple in gaming. And then after that, they had Ghosts. And I've never been one to be thrilled with the Black Ops franchise. But then they put out Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare. And I just got more and more, like, ashamed, I guess.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I get that.
I'm going to be curious, to say the least, to see how this game does.
By the
like,
way,
by actually playing it.
Yeah. By the way, actually, now that since I just realized, oh yeah, this is actually a World War II Call of Duty game. I have actually played a good amount of the World War II Call of Duty games from, like, back in GameCube era. Like, they're actually pretty fun. I actually have a lot of fun with them.
Yeah,
like, it's kind of cool to see it go back to its roots.
Well, it's also because the last time I played, like, Call of Duty 2, which I think was the last or one of the last World War II game. No, it wasn't. There was one after that was a.
It was Call of Duty 3.
Game. Call of Duty 3 was a World War game.
Oh, sorry. World at War. Sorry, that was
World at War. The one before World at War. You're right. The one before World at War. I was playing a couple years ago with some buddies. It was when, oh my god, it was when Advanced Warfare came out, and we literally went from playing Advanced Warfare to Call of Duty 2 to Advanced Warfare to Call of Duty 2, and it was just so crazy to see where Call of Duty went from to at that point where it came to, and it was almost kind of saddening to me, at least, that, like, the old Call of Duties, they almost had this kind of character to it, whereas Advanced Warfare was like just very much so. Yeah, it had this very unique personality that was just totally gone by Advanced Warfare, and just replaced with
had, like,
be fast and pull the trigger quickly. It was all about just speeding around, really. Like,
I'd say like the original Call of Duty games had kind of like a gun-ho nature to it that was actually like endearing and kind of enjoyable, whereas like the newer ones are just gun-ho in a depressing way.
So it'll be really interesting to see how, in my opinion, World War II holds up compared to both the Advanced Warfares of Call of Duty and the Call of Duty 2s of Call of Duty.
Yeah, that was a weird sentence.
Yeah, it was, but we're just gonna blow past that. But yeah.
Basically, yeah. So,
do you have anything else to bring up, just in general, with this?
Banana bread.
Well, banana bread, yeah. So the last thing I kind of want to talk about then, and we're not going to talk about it for very long, is that if you saw our short film that came out earlier this year, Love, this month, I have a date in mind. I'm not going to announce it yet.
This month.
But sometime this month, it looks like we're going to be releasing the 4K cut of the film, the behind the scenes, and the bloopers. So stay tuned for that. I'm very excited. So
I'm excited for that too. I actually want to see some of the bloopers and such.
Oh,
It looks
yeah.
like it'd be pretty fun.
I rewatched it the other day, and yeah, it's kind of almost nostalgic at this point because it's been so long.
Yeah, it's been a year, even more.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
I mean that's probably how it is for real films when they film a Christmas movie in April, you know, and then the DVD comes out after Christmas time, you know, a couple months like in February. It's like, oh yeah, we did do that a year ago. Like, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the J4U podcast. We will not be. Oh wait, oops. We will not be here. Sorry, I accidentally closed Discord. That's fine. We're taking a week off. Sorry, that was a really weird sentence. We're gonna be taking a week off, and we won't be back next week. The week after, or we'll hopefully be back. If not, we'll be back for a Thanksgiving podcast. And then after that, we're going to be doing the pilot of the new J4U podcast. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be fun.
Yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with all your friends. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Stay classy. Later. Woo!
Stop your letter until you get to the love. Be patient and wait for the love to come out. Sign your name at the end.